Hello and welcome to the Mythic Picnic Podcast. This is the first episode. First off, I want to say thank you so much for all the kind words and support I had for my last video. I'm really excited to have you all on board for new content. This is one of the new things I'm going to start putting on the channel. Two podcasts. This one, the Mythic Picnic, is going to be all about new things and meeting new people and stuff that's happening going forward. I will do a second podcast. I don't have the title for it yet, but it's going to be retrospective, looking back at old Mama Ho-Ho episodes. And each podcast episode will feature a guest who is starring in that Mama Ho-Ho video. There is going to be new content, but that's going to take a little time. So in the build up to that, I'm going to start posting some older sketches and things you may not have seen yet that has been made between the end of Mama Ho-Ho with Scarlett, Shanghai and me and now. This first podcast, I have my good friend Gregor, who is an actor and writer and stars in the Young Da series. This is a nice little conversation we had on a park bench in Glasgow. And I felt like this is a good way to start because after this episode next week, I'll start posting the episodes of Young Da. So this is a great way to get to know him and know a little bit more about the project before it starts. Yeah, this is it. Enjoy.
How you doing? Good, man. It's good to see you. I feel like last time I actually seen you in person must have been like less than 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
I think the last time was the Fringe.
Yeah.
And you weren't having a good time?
No. Although I probably shouldn't. I do like the Fringe, but probably shouldn't be too harsh on it because I'm going back this year.
Yeah.
Took a year off and then went back to it. It's just difficult, man. That you're doing 28 shows, you're competing against everyone else that's there. You know, I don't know how many acts there are, but at least 800 other professionals in the same field that you're doing. So the market's kind of diluted anyway, and you're, trying to humph and haw.
It's something I find really, really fascinating. Like, I told you then, when you were telling me all the stories, the stuff that's going on, I was just like, man, this would make a good documentary or a good movie. Because when you see documentaries, it's usually glorified and everything. Whereas, like, when you hear news articles about people camping just so they can make their shows, like in the park and stuff like that, and running from one show to the other.
Yeah, there's so much of that. And to be fair, I think it's starting to get a little bit better because people are just not doing it now.
And not doing the Fringe?
Well, if they are, they're doing shorter runs or they're changing the way in which they did it. But before, it was, I think especially after COVID, people were just like excited to get back out and do it. And it just kind of, it lost the fun because you thought the fun part was getting back out and being in front of people. But you're sacrificing so much of what's actually important about making a career out of it that you were just meant to be grateful. Does that make sense that you're back?
Yeah.
So you'll pay more money for a venue or you'll pay more money for advertising when in reality it was never that bad. And now it's, well, in the last 10 years it's particularly bad. But after COVID, that's when it hit like a kind of wild time. Because folks still weren't coming out either. Like even when we did it, I think the audiences were like half the size. Not just for us. Obviously, we may have gone downhill since the last time we did it then, but I think it was just overall the audience attendance across the board was just down.
Seemed fairly busy, but I definitely remember the year previous was really dead. Yeah. And I went last year to see a couple of things. It's quite nice, but just the small things that really, I don't know if it make me laugh's the right word, but you were taking breaks to shove the AC under your clothes. Like on stage, you're boiling.
But like, I don't know if people, I mean, you would know because you know me, but like, that's not real. That wasn't meant to, that is real. That wasn't meant to happen. There was no, that's not in the script.
And the other things like sound bleed. What if you get a punchline from the other room and it comes through?
There's so much of that. And you think about how much you pay for these rooms as well, and you're just kind of like, and it's not even really the venue's fault because they're trying to accommodate for the amount of people that are coming in.
Right.
But that being said, there's a hierarchy of when you get prioritised, and that was 2 years ago we did it. And back then, I'd say we weren't really at the point that we're at now. So we've gone back 2 years later, a bigger room, better venue, but you're still giving away about 40% of the takings.
Yeah.
After everything's said and done, then you've got VAT.
Yeah.
Is that become a nightmare for you recently, VAT?
Not yet. Not yet.
I feel like it's getting quite bad. It never used to be like that.
Well, I think everything's definitely got worse for sure, and in that sense of things. But what have you been up to since?
Really just touring, man.
I know, it looks like that's what you're doing.
Just been really focusing on the live stuff and trying to get it to a point where it's all we do. We're not quite there yet, but we're not far off it. And last year we did, you know Gary? Obviously you know Gary.
Yeah.
Gary Meikle. We were his tour support last year, so we went everywhere with him and then did our own tour and did a panto off the back of it. So before you know it, that's like 6 months of the year that's already filled up. And we were just doing that. And then this year we signed with a new agency. So when we signed with them, the tactic has been focus more on the online stuff, get more videos out. So I apologise if your newsfeed's been filled with the three of us sitting on a staircase. It's pretty boring stuff. But, you know, we have to pump out the content. And it's been scaling back on the smaller gigs and focusing on tour stuff. And mainly just writing. I've got another panto to write, another show to write.
So that's right, when you finish one season, the next season's come fast.
And then you don't have time to fit, because 2 years ago when we were doing all this stuff, I felt like we still had the time because people were more engaged with online content than they were with live, because there wasn't really much live even at that point. It was still kind of coming back. Because we must have first started doing all these when we were in lockdown, right? Or just kind of coming out the back of it?
Just coming out the back of it. So I think the peak online audience is quite high at that point, and TikTok was still like shooting up, so like now, I don't know if you heard, but we've obviously got connections in China, and that's where TikTok came from. The next big thing that's coming out of there is TikTok dramas, like 3-minute episodes, like well-made serious stuff shot on the side.
No way, they're going to commission it. So it's or is it just
It's not TikTok. It's another. It might also be owned by TikTok, but it's another app, and it's doing like basically Netflix for your phone.
That's cool. Can you explain to me what's been going on with America in TikTok? Because I've heard some things, but I thought maybe you would know a little bit more about what that is.
Right. So TikTok is originated in China,
right?
But in China they split it into 2 apps.
Okay.
So TikTok is also banned in China. They have their own version. So the Chinese name is Douyin.
Right.
And that's what it was originally. And then when they launched it internationally, they called it TikTok. But they separated the app. So the Chinese one only works in China and the rest is for international. TikTok is still owned by the parent company ByteDance, which is Chinese. And then some people are arguing that if you don't, unless you separate from them, then they don't want to keep you in the country because you're still tied, because ByteDance has ties to the government. So it's funny, because people are complaining. It's funny, like people are complaining, like they're going to ban it, but it's also banned in China.
Yeah, I know. I did find that a bit weird.
I think it will. Like I don't have a opinion really, but I know one of the solutions is just separate from ByteDance, and then everything's fine. Like to sell the company, basically, just like Elon Musk did.
Well, that could go one of 2 ways, couldn't it? Could either kill it or it could thrive. But
but it's definitely not going away. Like don't know. I got a weird relationship with TikTok. Do you finding?
I still use it, mate. I don't really use my own one as much, because that's how we kind of first started talking, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Through all the TikTok stuff. I don't really use my own one as much. It's mainly focused on building the brand with Weegies. I still sometimes use it, but to be honest, I just don't have the time. It takes people don't realise how long it takes to sit down and do like a minute long video where you're sketching out an entire movie. Like that takes.
Yeah, you realise there's a reason why there's like teams behind it to make it happen. Yeah, because you can like we did like a nice short sharp bust, but at some point you need support to keep it going.
100%.
But we'll hope that's not coming up. We've got this. Actually, let's double check something. Very unprofessional. I'll cut this out. Oh, I'm good.
Is that your mic off right now?
It's on there.
Oh, right.
I'm just checking.
I actually saw an advert and I wanted to check if it was yours.
What's that?
So it's got Jamie's in it.
It's probably mine.
Yeah, why? Because it was more the style when it came up on YouTube. Is it Pure Gym?
Pure Gym? Yeah,
Is that you?
yeah.
Thought it was you. Did you write that as well?
No. So it's an agency called Leith.
Oh, Leith Agency, right?
So they do the creative, and then you, as a director, you come in and say how you spice it up. But that's when you want someone who kind of knows what they're doing as well, like to come in and because you've not got a lot of time, it's a really small ad, and a lot of times when it's small budget, they'll like, let's just get regular people or models or something like that.
Yeah.
And it really helps to have someone who's like funny.
So when you're directing, how do you find that then on a smaller scale? Is it easier? Because one of the things that actors always say is we're not getting enough exposure to get these to get these auditions or to get seen for these things. But then having been on the other side of it, I look at it and I think, well, sometimes if the budget's not huge and you don't have the time nor the facilities to see 100 people for a job, you want to work with people you know that you can.
Yeah, because then you have a relationship already, and then you have a shorthand as well. You're just like, you make a few squeaks, like do it like this, and then because we work together, you're like, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. And you can get away with more, I think, when you know people. Like if you were to turn around and be like, right, well, we don't have this much budget to go on this long, so we need to do an extra hour or 2 hours. Most people would be fine with that.
Yeah.
If it's, pals that you work with. Sometimes if it's other contracts, and I've done that on other things as well, where it'd be like, well, I did that when we first met. We did that. We filmed something in Edinburgh.
Yes, we did a short film called, what was it called?
PJ and Max.
PJ and Max were the characters, and it was called, that's not good. I can't remember.
I can't remember. It was good. It was fun. Yeah, it was really, really good. But it was like with that, when you go through an agent or whatever, you get the contract and you're like, oh, they want to keep you an extra 3 hours. And you're like, well, what are you going to do to make sure I'll stay an extra 3 hours? You just have to think like that.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's people you know you can.
Yeah, I think as well as if it's put us down. If it's it is a small budget, then you can kind of make amendments, like we're all in it to try and make something good. But then if it's like there's plenty of budget and then they're squeezing you, then they kind of riff it a wee bit.
Do you find that a hard thing to manage? Sometimes it's a guy I know came out a book recently, and his first chapter is called "It's Not Show Friends, It's Show Business." Right? Do you find that relationship hard to manage sometimes between the two? If you're, I don't know, working with a company who are giving you money and you know the guy who's doing it, is there ever a part of you that's like, well, actually, even though you're my friend, I should be charging you more for this, or vice versa?
Yeah, that's to me, that's just flexible. It just depends on the situation. Depends how much I want to do something. Depends how exciting the idea is. That will all like drop the cost for me. Like, I want to do it. What I have, because I definitely come from YouTube, like for this channel is like a lot of my background is starting out doing stuff like this, and I got so used to doing a lot myself that the longer I'm in it, like, I really want to collaborate more because that makes everything way better. It took a while to realize that.
Yeah.
And having people you like working with makes a huge difference. And then I think I've been guilty in the past of like, no, it has to be this way kind of thing. Whereas I much prefer the friendly debate of like to come up with the best idea. I'm actually going through another ad at the moment where I kind of feel like it could be better in a different way. And after this meeting, actually, after this podcast, I'm going to try and persuade them.
Do you think there's a way? Because I've started working with college students and helping them with acting a couple of days a week, and I always think that if you want to get the best out of somebody, but they've made a choice, they've committed to it, whether it's writing or whether it's acting, and maybe it's subconsciously I should have been doing this with myself, because you learn when you end up teaching this stuff. And I've realised that the best way to show somebody that there's another way of doing something is to compliment them first.
Right.
So with the guys, for example, I'll always be like, I really like what you're doing with this. I think you can get more from it if you tried it this way. Because suddenly
they're doing Dota again.
yeah, it's like a nice way of saying that, because you're programming their brain to think it's not that it's wrong, it's that there are other possibilities.
Well, what I think that goes back to collaboration as well, because when we did a shoot with Gary, who a lot of people don't know was quite nervous to be on stage, and like, you wouldn't tell it from seeing him on stage. Sorry, terrified to be in the video, to act. But you said one thing that, and that's what I'm always just looking for, stuff to, like, these little tricks to pick up. And you were like, when he's like, "You're a bubble bath boy," and goes, "No, you got to say it with like, the meaning is completely different from what you're saying."
Yeah.
And that's when he was like, "You're a bubble bath boy," and then it made it way funnier. And then that's something that I'm like soaking in as well, to like to use if I need to as well. And that's what I think starts to speed up your skill as well when you're working with other people who are really talented. I did a short film that was mega serious last year, pretty heavy subject, but it was with a first-time director who's an actor, and I wanted to see how she spoke to other actors, just so I could kind of...
Was this one that Chloe was in?
No, that was Tomcat.
Right.
This is a new one called 16. Yeah, it was good because I do so much kind of silly stuff that I got to kind of pick up. I was really curious as well, what's the tone like on a set like that? And it was actually the same. Yeah, everyone's still having a laugh. Yeah. Like, I thought it'd be like super depressing. I think
that's what a lot of people think though, don't they? That as soon as you stick a badge on something, like when we did our stuff, as soon as you stick the BBC Scotland logo on it, or like for me and the boys, you're on tour on these big stages and you share those clips, it's weird because I think in people's head they automatically assume that is like high level of professionalism, that's like very top. What they don't realise is it's actually not, never really like that. When you're in the green rooms or when you're filming, there's still so much learning that goes on. It's not like the final product is there before you start.
I wonder if you ever get to that point, though.
I don't know. I mean, I think you'd probably be a bit... Can I swear?
Of course.
It's arsehole as shit.
And fuck.
Shit. Fuck.
There's a monetization.
Yeah.
As long as you say it in the first 20 seconds, I heard.
Oh, really? Is that... Well, they're not going to watch a lot of it. Probably got AI searching for it.
But for the people who don't really know, do you want to talk about your group? Would you think of that?
Yeah. So, I'm part... So, you know, it's so weird because the camera's so small. I have no idea if I'm actually looking into it or not. So I'm part of a sketch group called... It's weird telling you because I know you know and you've seen it, but I'll just pretend you don't know what it is.
All right, okay.
So, part of a group called Weegie Hink Ae That. We're a Scottish comedy sketch group who tour up and down the country. Been to America, been to Ireland, been to other places. I always feel like I have to say that because with a name like Weegie Hink Ae That, it sounds very stereotyped to just being quite a regional thing.
Well, what does it mean?
It just means, what do you think of that?
Yeah. But also Ouija is...
Yeah, Ouija is... would you say it's derogatory? I don't think it is.
No.
Yeah. It's a term used to describe people from Glasgow in Scotland.
A Ouija?
Yeah, a Ouija.
Like a yank.
Yeah, but if you abbreviate the name, and it was always kind of the hope, if you abbreviate the name, it spells what?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the impression we think sometimes, the heavy accents and the silly nature that is kind of that style.
What's the reaction to would you think of that? And then someone doesn't really know and be like, what?
They're like, what?
Exactly.
And that's exactly. And hopefully that's enough to bring them back. You don't know.
But how did that start? I actually don't.
Do you actually know that?
Not the full story, no.
Well, you've met Connor and Elliot.
Yes.
Yeah, so it started... So the other two in it, there's Connor and there's Elliot. And we met at uni. There used to be 4 of us. We all met at uni and we all started, having to come up... We all studied acting. And we had to come up with a concept to take to the Fringe, what we were talking about at the start. And I never wanted to do somebody else's play or show, because I think I'm quite like you in the sense I like to create my own things. I like to put my own stuff out there and have my own mark on it. So I didn't want to do somebody else's show So I naively thought I could write comedy. So I started writing minute-long sketches. But that's mainly because I didn't know how to write. So I couldn't actually write longer than for a minute. So I would just write a minute-long sketch. And I like playing guitar, so I wrote some silly wee songs. And before I know it, I had an hour worth of material. It was a horrible hour. Genuinely terrible. I don't know why anybody told us that was good. I think we used maybe 2 things from it now. But it was a horrible hour. But we took it to Fringe and it did all right. And then we just didn't stop. We realised there's obviously a market for that, for making your own stuff. And if you know much about Scottish comedy, you would know that the big things are Still Game, Chewing the Fat, Limmy Show. Over the last 10 years or so, I mean, there's obviously newer things like Scot Squad and you've got the Scots now, and there's some other things too, Two Doors Down. But these were the sort of shows, Still Game and whatnot, that's the sort of thing I grew up on. So I really wanted to write a show that I felt we didn't really have at the minute, but for stage and with songs in it. So yeah, it's like a little bit like Billy Connolly meets Limmy.
Musical as well.
Yeah.
I'd say a little bit Play the Concords as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like if you were to say to your mum, can we go see Flight of the Conchords? She was like, no, we don't need to go see Flight of the Conchords because we've got one of them at home.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah, that's what that is. You're like the Aldi version.
But it's gone strength to strength. It's kept you busy.
Yeah, it has. I think it's been an important learning lesson as well that it hasn't always gone right. And there are times, even at the minute, there's some things that you just think that when it gets bigger that it's going to be better. And that's not always the case. Other problems present themselves. You then have to separate the business from the friends, but at the same time, that's what makes the business. And I think that's really important to remember. And it's hard, but there's things that I'm thinking about all the time now that weren't a worry 2 years ago. You were just happy to get up on stage and do it. But now you're like, oh shit, I need to make a certain amount now, or else I've made less than last year. And it's constantly trying to fill your boots and find new things to do. And you might not get things that you got last year. And then you're sitting there thinking, well, does that mean I'm not doing as well as last year? But it's just different.
It's never like linear. It's up and down.
Yeah, it's up and down.
But no, it's that's great. And do you think would it go beyond? You'd like to take it beyond stage?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if me and you've ever spoke about that, but I definitely still think that there's scope at some point to do a 30-minute pilot. I'd love to do it. You know what it's like with pitching, though. It's really hard to get, I think, because the idea is quite specific in what they might think the appeal is for it. Although I would disagree with that. That's just because I'm in it. But I can see why they might think it's too specific. And it's just, how do you draw that out? How do you change it? But then do you really want to change it? So no.
There's one way, and there's one way is like doing it, and then what you're doing is creating your own following, and then maybe people see the benefit in that and then want to get on board. And then the other one is like always knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's tough because you you believe yourself like this could work, and you can see it can work, and a lot of it depends on the priority of the person you're talking to at that moment and what they're trying to fill. Did it have something similar? I had a sitcom outline for like The Wicker Man.
Oh, did you? I swear we kind of talked about this before at one point, did we not? It's just ringing a bell.
So I've definitely worked on it since then, but it's from the perspective of the cult as a messed up family, but they love each other.
That's cool.
And then I think I was talking to Channel 4, and they're like, "Oh no, we have a similar show." And then I went and checked that show, and there's nothing. I mean, it's a Christian cult, and it's in the city, and it's very pedestrian. It's not dark and heavy. It's a straight up comedy. It's not completely the same, but there's nothing really you can do because they've kind of made up their minds. So I've learned to you have to spin multiple plates.
Yeah,
you can't just lean on one thing because you'll be it'll slow you down and it'll make you sad as well.
Yeah. You're so right. I think as well, it's that thing of, somebody told me the other week, because I was speaking about this same thing of, you feel like you can get in the doors now and you can talk to these people, but it's just not enough. It's just not giving you the thing that you might want, which is the pilot or the TV show or the whatever. But you need to have that mentality of, I have these goals and I want to get there, because that's what keeps you in it. And also the passion for it.
You need a reasonable amount of unreasonable.
Well, it's not even unreasonable.
Is that word? Unreasonability?
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. But then, listen, I've seen the stuff that you've done, whether it was with me or whether it was with Islanders and all these other stuff that you've done with them. And, you know, it's definitely like, it's not like you've just come into this and you aren't capable of putting a show out there. And it's just so difficult. And I think sometimes people don't know the reality of how difficult it really is to get stuff commissioned. It's not even about whether or not it's a good idea. A lot of the time, it's about if it's the right idea for what they don't have at that specific moment in time.
So the reason for one of the reasons for starting this channel up is there's already this audience there that are they're really supportive. And there was when I came back to Scotland, I was like, right, I'm going to get into TV, and I kind of let it go in the wayside where I didn't realize at the time that maybe the audience would be up for coming on the journey, even though the content's going to change. And I think having, same with Weegie Hink Ae That, because I saw on Facebook you've got like 100,000 followers as well.
Yeah.
Having that built-in audience is a huge asset, and also is a soundboard as well, because you're getting immediate reactions before you're taking it to someone who can fund something bigger. So yeah, I put a video last week where I was basically asking, like, do you want to see some other stuff? And everyone was really nice.
I saw that video. The garden gnome clip was in it. I was like,
Yeah. So I want to do two things. One is start a podcast where it's all about new stuff and new people. And this is the first episode. And then I want to, after this, they've got to know you a little bit, I want to share the Jimmy and Dad stuff. And
are you able to get, so how does that work? Do you have to ask BBC for permission for that, or can you just share it?
I can share it. Yeah. And if I can't, I'm sorry. Ask for forgiveness.
I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm going to do it. Hopefully BBC's not watching. But that means that gets it out there.
Yeah.
And that just helps the cause overall. I'm going to talk about Islanders, share that, and then hopefully when it gets time to do new stuff, I'm going to try and get like a making of interviews, all that stuff kind of on the channel to support. Yeah. So when something new does come out, there's people who know about it. And then the other podcast I'm going to do is everyone who is in the old episodes of Mama Ho. I'm going to do a podcast with them.
Oh, that's cool.
We pick one episode, and it has to be one person that's in that episode, and then we just kind of
cool.
chat about what we remember. And yeah, not really, because it used to be when we did the episodes, it's like, all right, this one's going to go viral, this one's going to go viral. It's not really about that anymore. It's just trying to keep that engagement up.
I think you need both, though, don't you?
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you need that mentality.
I don't see this podcast like getting 10 million. You know what I mean?
But I feel like you do need that mentality of sometimes. I mean, we do when we meet up on a weekly basis to make videos. There is a mindset of, well, one of these needs to go viral.
Right.
But then also, I used to always have that when I was doing my own thing. With my TikTok account, I was always constantly like, right, this needs to go viral, this needs to go viral. To the point where I lost the interest in it. Mm-hmm. And then you see the dip, and then you come back again, and then you do the stuff at the Ouija's, you build. It's the same mentality, and you realise that actually, yes, it's great to have those things, and it's great to build an audience, but you should actually prioritise the fact that you enjoy it and the fact that it's material you want to put out, than opposed to like, I mean, I put out some fucking shit, like horrible. That still to this day, people quote to me, and I'm like, yeah, and it's school kids, and I'm like, well, of course it's school kids, because they're the only fucking ones you'd find it funny. Because it's like toilet humor stuff, but it's but you have to deal with that, and you get over it.
Well, it's like your learning curve is online as well.
Yeah.
So you have this like kind of record of like you getting better. So if you went back and watched like really old episodes of Meikle, there's people who love them, and then there's like some that did really well that I don't think are the best ones, and maybe I think the ones that didn't do so well are the best ones.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of part of it. But how did, can you remember how Jimmy and Dad came about? So I'm calling it Young Dad. I'm fitting them all together. It's a mini-series and it's called Young Dad.
Yeah, I saw that you said that thing. Although, actually, did you know that BBC shared it as Young Dad?
Did they?
So if you should look this up, or I'll show you after. If you go onto the internet, if you type in Young Dad, it comes up with Gary's face and it's got Young Dad under it. I was like,
How did that happen?
Yeah, I know. It was BBC Productions. It's very weird. Or BBC Studios, rather. But yeah, it came about. I think what happened was, well, it started because you got in touch with me over at, well, we'd already met because we'd filmed together.
Yeah.
So that's important to know, that we met because we'd done a short film together in Edinburgh. And then a year had passed, we were into lockdown, I'd started doing, all that stuff on the internet. You'd reached out about, let's see what sketches we can potentially, try and pitch or whatever. And I think we got one that wasn't Jimmy and Dad. That never came first.
Wasn't it? I think...
Or was it the first one?
Because originally in my head, I was like, let's get a really young kid and you play the dad.
But it was never going to be a short series at first. It was just a one-off, the football dad one. Is that right?
Right, yeah. Now I remember, you sent me a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think that's one I kind of picked out as like being easy to do.
That was it. We never saw anything in it other than just, here's a couple of one-off things, because there was a security guard one as well that we did.
And then we did that later.
Which I think's one of my underrated ones. I really like that.
Yeah.
I think that's...
I'm sold.
Yeah, it's solid.
They're all good, man.
Yeah, they are funny. I was doing a workshop recently where we sat, and it was a comedy workshop with kids, and we watched back some of them, and just even watching it, I'm like, do you know what? That was a good time. Like, that was a really good... that was a good stream of stuff that we were getting out, and I felt like it was particularly buzzing at that point, short stuff, and if they stopped and they're coming back...
They've came back.
They've came back, yeah, because I know Pierce... and is it Lewis that do Jamaica Street?
Right, yeah.
And I know they've been doing some stuff with them. But
overall, I think the production quality, because it was all really iffy, the production quality, and I don't know how they did it, but it's all kind of leveled off to be consistent. But I think at the time when we were making it, it was definitely felt like a step up.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if it kept going though? Because that was us just getting was it 2 years ago now? But that was us just getting started, and if we had that momentum, we keep building, it would only get better and better. And then you thinking now, like someone like BBC Scotland just like would have had this new show. It's in its second season by now. But anyway, yeah. So I wanted to cast a little kid, and you were playing a dad, and then you were telling me about a guy named Gary.
Yeah. So we just started. I just started getting to know Gary because I'd done a mockumentary with him a few months before that, and he's Gary Meikle. If you don't know him, he's a stand-up comedian, tours all over the world. He's absolutely smashing it, but he's a really humble guy. I'd say he's really humble, really down to earth. He's the sort of guy who's so well known online that you wouldn't think he's nervous, but he was quite nervous when we were filming.
Yeah,
because he really wants to do a good job. But anyway, I had him in the back of my head after doing that mockumentary and thought, I'm gonna reach out to him, see if he wants to give acting a wee try, because he'd done a very small bit part in Scott Squad, but I think it wasn't enough to really show off how good he is. So yeah, we got him in, and he was just absolutely brilliant.
Remember, he was like, "Do you want me to just fall down the hill?"
Do you want me to just fall down the hill?
His face.
And it's that thing where I'm sitting there looking at you like, I mean, can we say yes?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we could actually.
What's the worst that can happen? He's got a gash.
But he just threw himself into it, and to be honest, I don't think he said half the lines that we gave him. But but it doesn't matter, because
he memorizes bursts, which
Yeah.
is different. Like, he doesn't arrive knowing the script, but he's like, you tell him the line and he just fires through the line. It's sometimes a little different, but it comes out.
Yeah. And what was that like for you to work with as a director? Was that difficult to be like, right, go through that and stop it?
No. I've worked with a lot of friends, basically. So, like, when I work with someone who knows their lines, I'm like, this is fancy. Like, it's a total treat.
Yeah.
It's something I'm really used to. Like during lockdown, I was putting my brother and my mum and everything in sketches and.
Well, you've got to.
Yeah, no, there's something that was no problem at all. And we did that first one, which was about the football, and then we followed that up with probably my favourite ones, the girlfriend one.
Yeah, do you know what? I think that was my favourite one too, but it performed the lowest out of all of them.
Did it?
Yeah. See, if you look it up, one of them's on 500,000. The university one's on 500,000. I'm like, what? Why is that one that many? That's not. I didn't think it was that good. And Christmas is like over 1 million.
Is it?
Yeah, it's definitely thereabouts.
On Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to check that out.
I need to double check that.
That's amazing.
If I've made that up, don't worry about
that was the most. That was the most like pilot one.
Yeah.
Felt that we could, and maybe it could because it's one of the last ones, or the third one in that you kind of get a feeling for. It was the last one we've shot for sure.
I think it was a shame because I think by that point we'd really started to get a feel for what we know we can do and how we can progress it. And I think that's why that one felt so great watching it, because the chemistry was there by that point.
Yeah.
And we knew how Gary worked. We knew that we'd split it up, but even then, like, it was just, I think when you get into the flow of writing for somebody, you start to know their quirks and what they're good at and how that can blend into...
Really helps if you can hear them, you know their voice.
Yeah. And I would do that, I'd hear his voice. It's the same when Gary did Panto with us. And when I wrote the Panto, it was the same thing. I had him as the fairy. And I just knew how he would do it. And I also knew that because he's a comedian, he could write better than what I would potentially do. So he would take bits and be like, changing that. And I think that's the collaboration thing you were talking about. You need to know your strengths, and sometimes your strength is to listen and is to hear a different side of it. So that was...
How would you describe Panto? Some people won't know what that is.
Oh, right. Oh, geez. Oh, so a Panto traditionally is a British thing. It is a British thing, right?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
A pantomime is essentially a comedy show that's performed by an ensemble of actors who take old traditional folklore stories such as Peter Pan, Cinderella, Aladdin, and they create basically a children's show out of it. I mean, I know these are children's stories anyway, but they create an interactive children's show for all ages. So there'll be songs, and usually it'll be current songs that they'll use. So every year they'll use the same. There's only like 7 or 8, isn't there? Pantos, or maybe 10. And they just rotate them every year, and places do different ones.
Yeah, they put like modern day references in it. Like stuff that's happening in the news, jokes out of that. And then there's like in-jokes of the adults. Like very sly, dirty jokes of the adults.
Well, that was the fun thing about writing an adult panto.
Right.
The whole thing was just a complete... I'll send you... We filmed it.
Did you?
If you ever want to watch it, you just
100%.
wire it over. It's just so much fun because we did Jack and the Beanstalk, but it was called Jack and the Beancock. And it's just so stupid. But yeah, panto lends itself to being really silly. You're not meant to find it. It's not meant to challenge you intellectually. Yeah, you're not meant to really think about it. And I think it's
a good night.
It's a good night. That's it. It's a good night. So yeah, that was a challenge to get tour about it, but it was good fun.
How are you looking to improve that this year?
Well, I'm going to do Peter Pan this year.
Right.
I don't know.
Peter Pan's dick.
Something like that. I don't know. Peter Prick. I don't know.
Yeah, that's even better.
Peter Prick. I don't know. Probably for the posters, just probably call it Pan.
Yeah. Panned.
Something like that. And we'll have... Yeah. I've got a good wee bit. Won't give too much away. But you know the scene with the shadow?
Yeah.
Gonna get one of the boys in a morph suit.
All right.
Just to come on behind and just start choking them out. It's just like, is that your shadow? That's not my shadow. I don't know what that is. Just something in it. But yeah, it's even things like that. You're like, you could film these, and you could make short versions of these, and I think it's just knowing the platform for it. I think that's why it's so great that you've got your own platform, and it's why we worked on ourselves to get our own platform. Because without it, what have you got? You've got all these ideas sitting in your head, but nowhere to put them.
Yeah, I mean, there's always I think there's always a way to make stuff yourself, and it doesn't get easier all the time. It's just I think the longer something is, the more difficult it will be if you don't have any support. But it doesn't make it impossible. Actually, I went to see a film at the Glasgow Film Festival called Tummy Monster.
I feel like is that the one with Lauren McDonald in that?
Yeah.
It is, yep.
They self-funded it, feature film. They shot it in 5 days, and it's really good. It's really, really good. I think they'll definitely get like a decent distribution deals for it. I think it'll do really well. They were smart, but a lot of it, like, it's all set in one location.
Yeah, it's Larry's or something, isn't it?
Tattoo studio.
Tattoo studio, that's it.
They've got 4 or 5 cast. It's all very self-contained, but it's still like really entertaining, really darkly funny. And then we see something like that, it's a good kind of kick up the arse for, like, you can actually, like, if you kind of condense.
Yeah. How do you feel about the self-funding thing?
I'm going to do it. I'll talk about it on this channel a bit more later, but I'm going to try to self-fund a short that I have a feature script for. It's another writer that I've been working with that I like the idea, so we rewrote it as a short proof of concept together, and it's like drama comedy, and I want to try and get it made because I don't want to wait. I almost had something funded this year. I can tell you about that later, and if I got to make it, it would have been like a really good calling card. But I just missed it, so I don't want to leave that gap empty. I want to take the time and make something. So I'll make it for a really low budget, or see like if there's any other ways to fund it, and then that's just keeping that momentum going. But I mean, it's not everyone can manage to do it, and then not everything costs a lot of money to do as well. The other thing is, if we were talking about self-funding a pilot, I think the length of the thing you're making helps a lot, because if it becomes a feature length, it's sellable. If you have 6 episodes, it's sellable. If it's a short film, the idea that it's not cost a lot of money is helping you kind of get your name out there. If it's a self-funded pilot, then it's not. If the person you want to sell it to doesn't want it, then it's not as sellable. You know what I mean? But if you do have something that's like 90 minutes, then you can try and get a deal with that, and then you use the money from that to make your next one, and then you just kind of get the ball rolling. Like with those guys that did Tummy Monster, I'm not sure how much it cost. It definitely cost
Couple of grand.
Well, more, I think, because they built a set.
They built it?
Yeah, so it wasn't a tattoo studio. They built the tattoo studio. So I'm guessing it was in the 20 range or more. But they're also tied to a production studio, so they had support maybe. And then 5 days, maybe less, 5 days. Maybe it was 5 grand, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, it may have already been a set that was built and they got it from somewhere, or...
So it was a guy's, because I saw the producer's Instagram, it was a guy's friend's print shop or something like that, and they were just moved in and hadn't started decorating it yet, and they asked, can we use this as a location? So then...
Smart.
But it's just really basic wood that they've painted. What's it called? Plywood or chipboard or something?
Yeah.
And they built the set exactly what they want. It's still like... They built like stuff that helps it look better. You know what I mean? So like they have like a fish tank that's double-sided. So you're going to get some cool shots with that.
Yeah.
They built in where they're going to put lights, so they don't need to move lights every time we're shooting. So once the lights are set up, they don't need to move anything. Stuff like that would help. Also in the story, this is a good trick. Do you know like Clerks?
Yeah.
You know, the part of the story is the shutters are broke. That's so that you can film at night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the same thing happens in that. There's a tattoo studio, the shutters are locked.
Was the first Clerks not in black and white?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
Was that just for a particular reason then?
Cost.
Really, was it just for cost? That's quite funny. It makes it better.
And I think also the makers were the cinematographers talking like it helped us because it helped them use any lights they wanted to. They didn't have to worry about color balance and stuff like that.
That's a great.
Yeah,
it's a great way to get around that.
But yeah, that's always a good trick. The shutters are broken, and then you can shoot any time of day.
But I guess that also shows you the importance of a story sometimes, particularly with comedy. If the story's good and it's funny, you can make up for, depending on how you line it up and where it takes place, there's a way that it can be quite simplified. And if you focus on the story, sometimes that's all you need. Now, I'm not the director here, that's you, so you might be sitting there with like, that's bollocks. But I think sometimes you can...
I think you're a director as well, man.
Well, sometimes. Try to be. It doesn't always work out. But, you know, I think that's it, though. Sometimes the story can sell. I watched that, what's that movie called with Chinese coffee? Have you seen that?
A movie called Chinese Coffee?
Yeah.
No?
It's really, really good. What's his name? Really famous actor. Is it Al Pacino?
Chinese Coffee?
Yeah, it's called Chinese Coffee.
Never heard of it.
You should look it up. It's really, really good. And it's very simply filmed. It's set, part of it's set in a flat. One of them's set in a coffee shop where he drinks coffee. And, you know...
Old Al Pacino? Or young Al Pacino?
Young. Well, no, actually, no, he's like 50.
Wow. I never heard of it. Chinese Coffee, need to look it up.
It's really good. Older guy, and it's very famous too. Do I know what cafe?
No, I just said it in Chinese. What cafe?
But it's great, and it's about one guy's a photographer and it's the other one a writer, and it's just about them being these middle-aged creatives who don't have any money, and it's quite depressing, but it's really, really good.
Have you seen damn it, what was it called? The Japanese film One Holder just came out. Perfect Days. It just came out, so I think you can see it at the cinema. It's just about a Japanese toilet cleaner, and it's his life. And you watch it and you're like, I can do that. That's amazing. Like he wakes up early, he's got his routine, waters his plants, goes to work, takes pride, cleaning everything, and then he starts really early, so he finishes and he's just straight into his hobbies. He's record collecting, reading books, goes out for dinner, catches up with some friends, and does it all again the next day. And that's what the movie is. But you're just hypnotized watching it, going, "This is amazing."
But I like that though, because I think there's more and more stuff like this at the minute where we're getting out of these stereotypes of what something should look like, because we've grown up to think that that's perhaps how we should view that thing. So when you hear of that idea, the instinct is to think, oh, well, he must hate it.
Yeah.
I said, well, that's just not true.
Yeah.
And it's the same way because me and you had in-length conversations about this with Jimmy and Dad. Well, we were basically like, yeah, it's a thing, because I remember sometimes chatting to BBC guys about that, and it was like, well, the whole premise is, it's about a father and a son making it work. It's not about, oh, look how awful or how difficult it all is because it's a father and a son and there's no mum around or there's no one else really.
It's what they know.
It's what they know, and it's how they go about life, and it doesn't mean that, the dad was a bit of a, I mean, I'm going to use the word melon, but I don't know what, how could be. He's a bit of a melon, like he knows what he knows. The son, in my eyes, he had a lot more that he wanted to, he was going to learn about, and he was a lot more current. And what would you call that? It's the difference in age. There's a word for that.
Age gap.
Yeah, there's just an age gap, but it's using the age gap in a way where you're neither shitting on either end of of it. You're finding what's nice about it and why it works.
Yeah, there's a lot of love, and there's still conflict, but it's like not overly dramatic, and neither does it need to be.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. Like, do you remember? I'm sure there was a conversation at some point where they were like, "We need to set this." Maybe it was when I think it was when we were trying to work on the really back in the early days of it. But I remember somebody said, "Have you considered putting them in like a wee small 1-bedroom flat or something like that?" Do you remember that conversation?
Oh, there was the worry that the house might look too affluent.
But then I was kind of thinking about it, like, do you not think that's a bit mean to even think that?
Yeah. I mean, I've been on shoots for the government, and that's like a huge concern. Like, oh, this looks too fancy.
Yeah. It's
People are not going to be able to relate.
like, just let the. Do you know what? That's fun.
Red fridge.
Yeah, that's what I love about sex education.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I've always really admired about that show, like the show's the show, but what I actually probably like the most about it is where it's set, because it's so odd. Do you know what I think? Like, just these massive like houses. It just looks really rural, but it's not.
I haven't seen it.
And have you not?
No.
seen it? No. Well, you might agree or disagree, but I think that you've got these massive houses, and you're like, this feels weird for what the style of this show is, but it works really well.
Well, man, I think this went pretty well for the first one.
Yeah,
Young Da, you'll be seeing it soon.
I love that you're calling it Young Da.
Well, I just want like it was a series of sketches, but it's the only one with the characters connected. Like, I wanted to like house them with a name.
Yeah,
I just like went for that one.
why did we never give it? It was always just we always just said Jimmy and Dad, didn't we? We just called
Yeah,
it.
it's named the characters, and then it was part of short stuff. But also it's like
Oh, is that how you can get away with it if you call it Young Da?
I think it's still like the BBC licenses stuff for you to use. There's no like
There's no.
they don't there's not like I think it'd be a problem if you posted it at the exact same time, but there's no like I think there's any problem with sharing it, and there is.
And if you wanted it, you could have had it. Right? You could have had it.
All right, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you.